This beautiful vineyard behind me is planted to over 12,000 vines of Cabernet Sauvignon and Cabernet Franc, planted by an individual who grew Pinot Noir vines for 40 years. Why Cabernet Sauvignon? Why this particular vineyard? Take a listen to Sip 125 as we explore Elkhorn Peak Cellars and their new Cabernet Sauvignon vineyard. And there might be a birthday celebration. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Martin Cody. I am the co-founder of Cellar Angels and their host for this evening's SIP broadcast. This is episode 125. So just over 2.5 years ago, we started this wild ride on Friday nights, and you are tuning in. There are no commercial breaks. We still have no sponsors, and LeBron James has not yet reached out to determine whether or not we should help raise money for his charity. So none of that is transpiring, but I will tell you, if it is Friday night, SIP happens. So can't thank the people who gave me that enough. I turned 57 today. So happy birthday to me. I've got cake. I've got Pinot Noir. I've got you. What could a man ask for more than that? I will tell you, in 57 years, I've learned two things, and Sipsters, the world changers that you are, recognize these two things. Everything turns out really, really well when, one, you do your job to the best of your ability, and two, you're kind. I think that's what I've learned. Those two things, do your job to the best of your ability. And since we moved to Florida, I've gotten into the good book. I think you know what I'm talking about when I say good book. Birds of South Florida. So the Birds of Florida guide is what I'm into now, because they have religion down here in Florida, but that is our religion right there. So the Birds of Florida guide has been getting us through. And also, late breaking news, recently we were voted the most enjoyable wine program ever watched. And that was by my mom and some friends at the memory care facility. So thank you to the staff at Shady Oaks. I am going to hell. I apologize for that. So it's not going to be pretty. But I did want to show you a couple pictures of things that have happened since I turned 57. That, ladies and gentlemen, was second grade. And those are two front teeth that were not fun to be around. There wasn't a log that I could not get through. There was quite a few fisticuffs because of those teeth. And you got to like the Catholic school upbringing with the wonderful wardrobe. Fast forward to the fact that I used to be a heck of a lot more flexible than I am now. And I'll share with you why that flexibility has waned. But look at the turn. Oh, there's nothing to show here. That didn't show up. I apologize. I will show you this. Wine Club members, from last week, we missed the newest edition of Spicy Vine staff. So there is the newest edition. That's baby Ellie, who's going to be a future winemaker, I'm sure, with Dad. And Spicy Vines over in Sonoma was last quarter's featured wine club producer. She is amazing. But that's not what we're here tonight. We're here tonight to talk to two of our favorite people that have planted a vineyard behind us that really is going to be something that we want to talk about. So I think it's important that we get to them in 1 second, because I'm going to go through the pop quiz winner. Where are the oldest Cabernet Sauvignon vines still producing fruit? Now, the answer was B, Barossa Valley. That is Penfolds, planted in 1888. And the winner is Tom T. I don't know if Tom T is sitting with Scotland or if in fact is on, but if Tom is on, we will deposit some loyalty points into Tom's account. Brent H, you were second. Doug R, who is not on, got a late message from him a couple minutes ago. Sandy, hello. Peter, hello. Sean, hello. And Sean in Maryland, hello. So that's the Barossa Valley comment. Also want to share, I share a birthday with someone. That individual is my good friend, Brian. And this is Brian, who is helping me pour more wine into my gullet. And as you can tell by my eyes, the evening was a success in that mission. But wanted to thank Brian, and also friends of our two guests. Jane has a birthday tomorrow. And what do all of these people have in common? Wine. Wine has brought us all together. None of us would be here without this beverage. It is an incredible transformative beverage. And I can tell you, no one of this size and this caliber and quality of people have all gotten together over milk. It is wine. So I want to thank all of you for coming. Thank you for the birthday wishes on the side. And with that, let's get to our guests this evening, because they have decided to plant this brand new vineyard behind me. And it is a task that is not easy, because they are known for Pinot Noir. And so without much further ado, it gives me a great pleasure to bring in Elise and Ken Nerlove, an incredible father-daughter team producing exceptional wines. And cheers to Elise and Ken.
Hi, Martin. Happy birthday,
Hey,
man.
Martin. How are you?
I am wonderful. Thank you guys for coming on. For those of you that are curious what Elise and Ken are drinking, you can be darn sure it's something that they produce. I do want to share, yeah, exactly.
And it's good.
It is good. If you want to get the sip kit, which many people have, you need to go to the Cellar Angels website, and you just go to cellarangels.com, pull up the website. The first product on the marketplace will be the sip kit. I can show you that a little bit later. In it was the 2018 Elkhorn Peak Pinot Noir. But Ken, I'm going to start with you because most of you probably don't know that this is Ken's 40th year having first planted grapes in 1983. So 40 years as a grape grower. My guess would be he's seen quite a few things. So walk us through kind of how and why you ended up in the Valley and what made you decide to want to be in the grape growing business.
Well, Martin, I get asked that question a lot, and everybody thinks, oh, you know, you're following your passion, you're doing your dream, and, you know, you're growing grapes in the Napa Valley and all that kind of stuff. And the reality is that was never my intention in life. I never thought about doing that. But what happened in the early 80s, we ended up buying this deserted sheep ranch in the Napa Valley, 28 acres. And I bought it with a business partner of mine, and we moved up here, and we were kind of settling in. And the objective at that point was to live up here, fix the property up, sell it, and make some money. You know, we were young men at that time, and I thought that'd be a good thing to do. So anyhow, we were in the Valley, and my partner, he's a big idea guy, said, well, let's grow grapes. And I said, Greg, I don't even know what a grapevine is. I had a job. I don't have time to do that. But he insisted we grow grapes. So about a year later, we put a couple of acres of grapes in. And then I kind of got really interested in it. I kind of got enthralled in it and everything. And as the years went by, I developed more vineyards. I quit my day job. I really got into the farming thing. A few years later, I bought some more land in Napa, planted more grapes, and I just kind of evolved into it. And it has become a passion over the years, but it's not something that I set out to be. I mean, when I was a kid, I wanted to be a race car driver, but that never happened.
Where did you grow up?
In the Bay Area, Danville, okay, in the San Francisco Bay Area. So I'm 30 miles from where I was born. So talk about not going very far in life. I'm just up the road a little bit.
And when you said you finally quit your day job to focus on the grape growing, what was the day job?
I was in commercial real estate financing. I worked in the banks. I did loans and things. I never really cared for the job. I was in an office. I made good money. That's what kept me there. But when I had the opportunity to get out of the office and take the coat and tie off, I did, and put on my Levi's and my flannel, and I've been happy ever since. I don't have any money, but that's irrelevant.
But you're enjoying it, and your hands are in the dirt, and it's fulfilling and gratifying.
Absolutely. I think it's been a really good lifestyle thing for me, and raised my family up at the ranch and doing that kind of stuff. So no complaints.
And the Sarasota Sipsters are in the house. I saw Karen A., who is an absolute angel. Lynn, good to see you. So many people. John B., I said hello, just trying to get through everyone. Jan, nice to see you. Ivy, thanks for jumping on. Hart and Vicky, I think I said hello to you. So I got your picture now, Ken, and you started to grow grapes. Why did you decide to plant Pinot Noir?
Well, that's a really good question. And again, when we started planting grapes, I didn't even know what a grapevine was. So I went around and there was nobody in our area growing grapes. So I went out to the Carneros district, which was close to us. And I started talking to growers out there. Hey, what are you growing? Why are you growing it? And all this kind of stuff. And what I found out is because of our location in the extreme south end of the Napa Valley and our proximity to the San Pablo and San Francisco Bay, we have a cooler microclimate out there. It's a marine type environment. And everybody told me this is the area you grow Pinot Noir. So I didn't know any better. And so we grew, the first vineyard we put in was 1 acre of Pinot Noir and 1 acre of Chardonnay. But as the years went by, on it, I said, well, this is Pinot territory. So we focused on the Pinot since then.
And were you, and I can't imagine you were a wine drinker. What was your beverage of choice when you left?
No hesitation.
Well, you know what they
Awesome.
say in the wine industry, hey, how you make good wine is with a lot of beer.
That
And
is
that
correct.
comes from harvest, and harvest time, when it's hot out there and you're picking grapes, nobody's drinking wine. They're pounding down some cold Coronas. So
I mean, every time we look back at photos taken at harvest or throughout the growing season, I'd say the majority of them have Ken holding a Corona.
I got to
So-
get hydrated, you know?
Absolutely. Eric K, good to see you. Elise, let me circle over to you for a second, because I'm curious, did you grow up, walking the vines with diapers on and following dad on the tractor?
Well, that's a really good question, and I will answer that. But first, I think a few of our winery friends have a very special message for you, Martin. So Denise, I don't know if you want to take it away.
Got it.
Okay. Mission Control has started screen sharing. I'm just going to eat cake.
Hello and happy birthday, Martin. Stephen and Lisa and Heidi and I wanted to wish you a very happy birthday. I am coming to you from North Carolina on a little road trip I've been on for the last week and a half, and I'm so terribly close to Naples, it breaks my heart that I won't get there to see you.
Wow.
Wait.
I see that there's more.
It's like us. I hope to celebrate with you very shortly. Cheers to you. Thanks.
Martin Cody, congratulations on turning 29 one more time. I hope you're having a fantastic birthday, full of joy, full of happiness, full of good health. And of course, I hope you're drinking a lot of good wine. Miss you tons. Hope to see you again soon. Cheers, my friend.
Aloha Martin, on behalf of Dot Wines, Lee Sasmont and
Sean Phillips.
we are wishing you a very, very, very happy birthday. And thank you so much for all the support that you and the Cellar Angels have given to our baby brand. This is Sean struggling to open your bottle of Bubs that we will drink on your behalf. I'm ready. Okay. And we just want to wish you a big happy birthday, big guy. Woo! Happy birthday. Our border collie's freaking out. There you go.
Oh, that is awesome.
Here you are. So, from us to you, happy birthday.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Mahalo.
Martin, happy birthday from here in Chile. I am just about to drink a bottle of Hillary Goldschmidt, actually, while I'm in Chile. I brought it all the way with me to drink with some winemakers. But we will toast you tonight. Hope you're doing well, buddy. Look forward to catching up soon. Cheers.
Good.
Hello, Martin. Happy birthday, friend.
Happy birthday.
More than anything else, Carla and I want to wish you happy birthday, and we want to thank you for your friendship. And cheers to you and to many, many more years of health, happy birthdays, and to our friendship.
Oh,
Cheers. Happy birthday, Martin.
Greetings from San Francisco. I hear Martin is turning 75. My God, he looks good for his age. So happy birthday. I see you moved to Florida, so that makes sense for 75-year-olds. I hope you have a great day. Know that I'm thinking of you, and can't wait to share a glass with you soon. Take care, buddy. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Martin, from Steve at McLaren, all the way from sunny Scotland, California. although I'm not really quite sure at the moment. I hope you have a great day and you stay dry on the outside, but not dry on the inside. Have a wonderful day.
Hey Martin, I just wanted to wish you happy birthday. Maybe sing you a little song. Happy
Oh.
birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Martin. Happy birthday to you. Enjoy it to the fullest, buddy. See you later. Bye.
Happy birthday, Martin. I hope this next trip around the sun is filled with everything that brings you joy and great wine and loads of time with your friends and family and more visits to a beautiful wine country. I know we love having you here. So happy birthday. I raise my glass. Cheers.
I see there's been some people conspiring.
There you go.
Sorry, Martin, we had to. That was really great. A lot of birthday wishes.
Crazy cool and fascinating because I saw Iggy there, which is amazing. And I was going to share, a picture of Iggy and I in the vineyard earlier. So, and I haven't seen Ignacio with a mustache before. So that was kind of crazy. We knew Iggy before he even had a girlfriend, and now he's got a girlfriend, got married, has 2 kids. So apparently we've been at this a long time. But that was very special, you guys. Thanks for your patience doing that and putting it all together. And at least you have to answer a question, apparently, or you have to ask a question. Oh,
no, you had asked me a question about
how the diapers. Did you?
I certainly
was. Let's get back to you in diapers.
Okay. I certainly was running around the vineyard in diapers, but no, I never really thought that I would end up back in the family business. My parents were really great about not pressuring my brother or I to join the family business, to go out and explore the world and chase our dreams and our interests. And that's what I did. I went to college. I got a degree in marketing. I went out, worked in the corporate world, made good money, traveled around the United States, got a lot of experience. And then the 2017 fires happened, and they just kind of brought me back home, back to the ranch. And I decided that I wanted to help out with the family business. It was only supposed to be for a year or 2. And here I am 5 years later, and we got a lot more stuff going. So I think I'm here to stay.
And where did you go to school?
I went to San Francisco State University.
And so in 2017, kind of the fires brought you home, and you said, okay, I'll give it a year. Was it a year because you didn't think you wanted to do it? Or was it a year you just said, I just want to help out for a year, then I want to get back to the marketing gig?
Well, it wasn't like I came home and my folks were like, we have a position for you with a 401k and a salary. It was more like, you can work here, but we can't pay you. So I was like, okay, cool. I'll just help out for a year. I had a savings account. So, I helped out for a year. I sort of brought the company into like the 21st century in terms of like our point of sale system, right? Made some marketing materials. But then I started working in the vineyard with my dad, and just a whole new world just emerged for me, and I just became fascinated with grape growing. And then of course I wanted to try winemaking. So at that point I said, well, hey, what if I stay on full time? What are my options? And he said, if you can sell the wine, then we can pay you. And so that's what I did. I started selling wine and generating some business so I could fit in.
So Martin, when Elise came to me and said she wanted to get involved in the family business, I said, okay, sure, no problem. I thought, this was a fad thing. In 6 months, she'd be out of here. Well, she got involved, and I could see the interest level was really, going up the scale there. And so I encouraged her. Prior to that, I didn't even mention it to her. I didn't think this was her thing, but she did get involved in the wine industry, the family business. She embraced it. She got passionate about it. And what I tell people, she's got the passion that I had 30 years ago. And anytime you're running a business, and more specifically a family business, I think it's critical that you keep the passion going so you can be up to date in marketing. And she has brought us to the 21st century as far as technology and all that stuff goes. And I'm very appreciative of it.
Thanks, Dad.
You're welcome.
So
Well,
nice.
and it's kind of interesting too, Elise, because as you mentioned, you brought the winery up to the 21st century, but you get to use all of the skills and college education and industry, experience you developed in marketing. And it's almost like you get to apply it towards a project, but the project just happens to be the ranch in your family farm. So you get to do a personal case study on your family history and your family farm. It's almost like a dream job.
It is a dream job. Yeah, every day I get to wake up and I'm working to further develop, my family's business. I get to work in the vineyard with my dad. I get to go to the winery where it's just a bunch of familiar faces. Yeah, I love this job. Doesn't get any better than this.
And you also get to, it's quite evident for those of you that don't follow Elise on Instagram, you're missing out because her marketing skills are on full display. You get to see what's going on at the vineyard throughout the year. You get to experience firsthand via, 1, 2, 3 minute video vignettes, exactly what's going on, how they're dealing with certain things, too much rain, not enough rain, bud break, grafting. It's amazing from an educational perspective, but it's also very intimate, which is why we love to support the limited production wineries, because you're not going to get this out of a mass produced winery. They don't treat the vines, they don't treat the process like a limited production family run farm. So that's kind of cool to see all of your marketing skills and chops on display. And we're better off for it because I learn something every single time I watch one of your videos.
Thank you,
Super
Martin.
cool.
A lot of times I'm actually filming to take like a note for myself because I wasn't trained traditionally in school to
Right.
grow grapes and make wine. Of course, I'm studying now at the Napa Valley College. I take viticulture and enology classes as my schedule permits, but I got the best teacher around, so a lot of times I'm just sort of in the vineyard, taking those little vignettes, those snippets, so I can rewatch them and process it later on. Because I'm trying to learn all I can.
Yeah, it's like a crash course, it's Cliff Notes of gardening and agricultural and grape growing, but unfortunately Mother Nature doesn't work that fast. So you have to learn, it's on the job training. But it is Women's History Month, and I'd be remiss without congratulating you on all of the accomplishments since 2017. And one of them that I think is has to be up near the top, in my opinion, is what you've done with others and some other amazing women in Save the Family Farms. And I would love if you could spend a couple minutes, because that is near and dear to your heart. And it's something that is near and dear to us, because the limited production winery for us is the fabric of the wine industry. So tell people about that initiative and how you have been able to kind of change the legislation.
Thank you, Martin. Yeah, back in 2017, when I just jumped onto the family business, we were writing our 5-year plan, and we just identified the need to be able to host guests on site at our little small vineyard. And local laws in Napa stipulate that tours and tastings are a privilege granted to those who have production facilities on site. But a lot of small growers like us, we use custom crush houses, which are essentially a co-op model winery where several small producers pool their resources and share one winery facility, shared resources for top of the line equipment, stuff that's new in the technology. It's a win-win. But that forecloses us from the opportunity to host guests on site. So a few of us, second generation grape growers, winemakers sort of got together, and our mission was to change the system. We thought that it was time that Napa embraced its micro wineries, its smallest producers, and allowed us to participate in the wine industry the way the big guys are able to participate in the wine industry. And we wanted the ability to tap into the tourism market that, is so prevalent here in Napa Valley. So long story short, after 5 years of essentially lobbying, we were able to create something called the Micro Winery Ordinance here in Napa County. It passed on May 5th, 2022. So we are rounding about a year since it's passed. And there's a handful of us, about 24, 25 of us, that plan to go through the micro winery application process and obtain a micro winery permit. So it's still a long game. It's not something you can walk into the county and get a rubber stamp on your application. It's a multi-layered approach. You have to get site evaluations and water availability analysis and all of these things. So we are just at the beginning stages, but we do hope to have our micro winery up and running in the next few years and really welcome people and give them a boots on the ground tasting experience at Elkhorn Peak.
And Martin,
that's-
I'd
Go
like
ahead.
to add something to that, is that in the Napa Valley, as in I'm sure a lot of small communities, it's a tight knit community, and Napa runs in the good old boy network. And you don't get things changed in the Napa Valley, especially stuff to deal with the winery definition ordinance, which is the regulatory body of the Napa Valley that was instituted in 1990. Nothing changes. It doesn't happen. But Elise, when she got on board, and she's pretty tenacious, and she was known on first name basis down at the Board of Supervisors, and
For better or worse.
yeah, and quite honestly, she laid them out. She got something done in the Napa Valley that doesn't get done, and that was a change to the winery permit process in Napa Valley. It's never happened, and she got it done in about 4 years period, working with some other people. But for those of you who aren't familiar with the politics of the Napa Valley, and let me be clear here, it's all about politics. This was a home run. I mean, this was out of the park. Big deal.
And I just got to acknowledge you guys actually, because Cellar Angels was a major contributor to our fundraising efforts for several years. So it's thanks to everybody that bought wine through Cellar Angels and chose the Save the Family Farms nonprofit at checkout to donate to, that we were able to get the attorneys we needed, get the specialists behind us, and really move this initiative through the machine.
Oh, that's incredible. And Ken, I agree with you. It is a bureaucratic political machine, and Sipsters and Cellar Angels, don't ever think that your purchase from whatever purveyor it is doesn't make a difference, because when you're buying from limited production places like Elkhorn Peak or Cellar Angels directly, every purchase makes a difference, because it allows the wineries to potentially hire more workers, produce different varietals. It has a huge impact on what they're doing. So at least that's
cheers
amazing.
to that. That's fact right there, Martin. Thank you.
One bottle at a time.
Yeah.
One bottle at a time. It's freaking awesome. I'm going to launch a couple poll questions before we turn on cameras, and then we're going to talk a little bit about the vineyard behind me. So Ken planted Pinot Noir in 1983. Pinot Noir comprises what percent of plantings in the Napa Valley? 6%, 8%, 10%, or 11%? For those of you that are old enough,
I know this either. This is great. This is a great question.
we make both the questions up, Elise, and the answers. So they're very, very difficult questions. I'm going to give this about 5 more seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. You want to take a guess, Elise?
I think it's probably 8. Yeah, okay, that's what the majority said too. 8 to 10% would be my guess.
Ken, any thoughts? You planted most of them probably.
I think I don't really know the answer, but I'd guess 10 to 11%.
What a great question. This is cool.
The answer is 6.
Oh,
wow. Interesting.
Now, conversely, which is probably a good segue to the vineyard behind me, what percent of the planting in Napa Valley is Cabernet?
Oof. That's damn near 100.
Actually, there's over 40 varieties planted in Napa Valley, but Cabernet represents 52%. So more than half of the valley is Cab.
I believe that for sure.
All right. Now, speaking of family-owned wineries, what percent of Napa Valley wineries are in fact family-owned? 65%, 74%, 82%, or 90%?
Well, I would think it'd be on the low side, 65.
I mean,
No hints, Ken. People are still guessing.
Oh, I wasn't supposed to say that?
Not yet.
Oh.
No, you're fine.
That's just a guess. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
I don't know. I'm guessing.
Good. These are good trivia questions. The crew did a good job this week.
Yeah.
All right. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So what are your thoughts? Ken said 65, which apparently a lot of people think it's 65. Elise?
Yeah, I think it's probably 65. If it's anything higher than 65, I'm gonna be a total downer and say that we are in the age of the buyout, the corporate takeover. So if it's not 65, it's headed to 65 pretty soon.
The answer is 90.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah, but like the
90.
Mondavis, they're family owned, right? But
So are the Gallows, but not
Yeah.
technically.
Yeah, that's true.
But here's a question that is actually better. This one is not written. What % of the wineries in Napa produce under 10,000 cases? Which you would obviously be one.
Mhm.
right.
The answer to that is 80%.
Yeah,
So
that's what I was
80% of the
that's what I was
wineries,
thinking.
and you've got over 1,000 commercially licensed wineries, and 80% of them produce under 10,000 cases. And
Right.
interestingly enough, 90% produce under 5,000.
Right.
So
The
when you
backbone
think,
of the Napa Valley is the really small guy. But
correct, which is what
yeah.
we love to feature and what we love to showcase, and you being one of them. So now we just talked about Pinot Noir representing 60% of the crop in Napa, which my guess would be part of the reason you decided to plant Cabernet, because it is the king of the valley and it is Cabernet country. So walk us through the conversations the two of you had with deciding, okay, should we plant a new vineyard? Where do you want to plant a new vineyard? Do we need to buy land? Ken, why don't you start with how this idea sprouted as a seed and was germinated?
Well, that's real easy. I said, how can we make some money growing grapes?
I mean,
100%
honestly,
economics.
it is kind of that simple. So we have our ranch where we grow 8 acres of Pinot Noir, and then in the mid 90s, my dad bought an adjacent parcel that was about 10 acres, and we planted more Pinot Noir there as well. But when it came to replanting the Pinot Noir vineyard that was located adjacent to the ranch, we just sort of looked at each other, and I mean, it was mostly my dad. He wanted to make some money selling grapes. And the interesting thing about, we make wine from our estate grown vineyards, but we're also in the grape selling business. And in Napa Valley, we're really fortunate that grape prices are so high. But yeah, Pinot Noir fetches maybe $3,000 a ton, and Cabernet fetches, $7 a ton. So farming costs are consistent.
Side note, Ken and Jeff and Jane have been drinking since 11 this morning. Don't worry about them with the hats and everything. I do have a question. Elise, you said you came to the farm at 2017 and you started selling. Okay, everyone, knock it off. and you started selling the wine. Ken, were you selling the wine at all? Were you selling bottles, or were you selling grapes? What were the sales like prior to Elise coming on at 2017?
Martin, I started at the bottom, and I used to what they call tote the bag. I went around to all the restaurants, all the wine shops in San Francisco, the Bay Area, the South Bay, sampling our wines. I did it for years and years and years. I grew the grapes, we made the wine, and I went out and sold the wine. So I have a pretty complete background on the whole thing's done. And I'll tell you what, it's a lot of hard work, but it's sales, and I'm used to sales, and that's what we did back then and everything like that. But that whole thing has changed over the years. For the small producer now, direct to the consumer is the business model. It's no longer really restaurant sales and wine shop sales. It's direct to the consumer. So our whole marketing approach has changed over the years on that. But to answer your question, yeah, in the first 20 years of the business, I did everything. I changed the oil in the tractors, and then I put my bag over my shoulder and walked the streets of San Francisco. Part of the deal.
So Elise, when you came on and you looked at the sales numbers, were you just like, hey, these numbers stink? Who's been working on
that bad?
They weren't bad at all. But, one of my first tasks was to, as my dad says, like, take the bag, right? So
you got to carry the bag. I've been in sales for 35 years. I still carry the bag.
Right. But my dad didn't tell me much in the way of, where I should focus, right? He was just like, hey, however you are successful selling wine is how you should sell wine. So it was really up to me to develop my style? Was I gonna focus on restaurants? Was I gonna focus on, inns? It was a big experimental game, and god damn, that was humbling, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, I figured out pretty quick that the best use of my time was to sell my wine club, was to find my wine club members. So I sort of stopped going to restaurants, stopped going to wine shops, and I just started focusing on trying to show up where people who love a good bottle of wine and a good story hang out, and just sort of see if they wanted to join my wine club. And so that's been the primary focus for me.
And I remember one time I took Elise, I was showing her how to do the sales calls, and we were at a wine bar someplace down in South Bay, and Elise wasn't even 21. And so I was pouring the guy the wine and doing my pitch, and he looked at her and she goes, "Is she 21? I said, "Well, of course she is."
Oh
That
my
was,
God.
back summer break, I'd get home and dad would be like, "You want to make $50? Like, come carry wine for me." And so that's what I did. That was my first taste of sales.
It's a fun vocation until you're getting your teeth kicked in on a daily basis, and it makes
Right.
makes every sale worthwhile. So
Yeah.
economically, you decided, okay, Cab is king. This is the crop we have to plant. And as you mentioned earlier, you're in the extreme south area of Napa, and it's much, 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 much cooler than the rest of the valley there. So how did you decide on what varietal of Cabernet to plant, what clone, and tell us a little bit about kind of decisions on the vineyard, density of planting? I'm interested in all of that.
Well, South Napa, the south end of the valley, is substantially cooler than the rest of the valley. It's about 30 degrees cooler than Up Valley. And Up Valley predominantly has been where the Cabernet has always been grown. But in the last 10 or 15 years, the south end of the valley has become quite popular to develop vineyards because there's no more vacant land Up Valley to plant. And of course, the chosen varietal in the valley is Cabernet. So how do you
Right.
plant Cabernet in a cool region? Well, so what we did, and I believe a lot of the cab growers are doing that, is we plant. So the concern of growing Cabernet in a cool region is Cabernet is the last red varietal to be harvested. It's got a longer growing season. And the concern there is if you're growing Cabernet in a cool region and it doesn't ripen, and the winter comes on and you get rain on your semi-ripe grapes, it'll turn to rot. So you got to be careful how you do that. So how we prevented that is we planted a early ripening clone. It's called the Cabernet 337, and it's a clone that has a shorter growing season. It's early ripening. So that took care of that. But the other thing we did is that we tried to fool Mother Nature. So when we typically were growing Pinot Noir in the south end, we use bilateral cordon, which is a training system, and it's a training system where your cordons, you have 6 foot row spacing, so your cordons are 3 foot each. So what we did, we tightened up the vine spacing to 4 foot, so you had a 2 foot cordon. Bottom line, what it means is that each vine produced less fruit. So if the vine produces less fruit, it's easier for the vine to ripen. Now, and so from a physiological standpoint, we were kind of doing these tricks. But the other thing too is that what's happening in the Cabernet market now is a lot of the producers are going for lower alcohol wines. The younger people are liking lower alcohol Pinot or Cabernets. So lower alcohol means you can pick the grapes earlier. So instead of hanging out there to get to 28, 29% sugar degrees of Brix, you can pick them at 25. So the last 2 years of harvesting, we hit our numbers right on, and I think it's coming out pretty good. So it was a gamble, but it was calculated, and we did what we needed to do, and so far I think it's working out all right.
All right, we had our first harvest in 2021.
Mm-hmm.
And our second harvest last year. So our first harvest, we only harvested half the vineyard. Second harvest was the first time that we harvested the full 9 acres.
Because we only planted half the vineyard the first time.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I want to make a note on how we planted this vineyard. So for
Thank you.
anybody that's had seen any videos on YouTube of how they replant vineyards, there's a million different ways to do it. But since we're old school farming, My dad threw out like 20 shovels and we just dug 12,000 holes.
Got to do it.
That's how we planted our vineyard. Everybody grabbed a shovel. We had crews. It took us 2 seasons. And yeah, every vine was planted by hand. So
They have machines to plant now, but there's nothing better than grabbing the shovel, digging the hole, putting the vine in, make sure the roots are straight down and do it right.
Oh, Ken, I can think of about 800 things that are better than that.
so can I, Martin.
Count
so
me
can
in.
I.
Don't ever say never. There's never something better than grabbing a shovel and planting 12,000 vines.
I'm used to grabbing a shovel.
I think root canals come to mind might be better than that. There's a whole
Right.
host of things.
After day 1, I was like, is this really what we're doing? And then yes, it was. We continued for weeks.
Well, you know the old saying, grab the shovel and get the job done. So that's where that comes from.
We did that literally.
That saying was killed because it's so old and no one likes that saying. No
I'm
one
an
says
old
that
guy,
anymore.
so what the hell?
All right. So how many vines did you plant again?
Just under 12,000 individual plants.
We have about
insane.
1,250 vines per acre, and we've got about 10 acres of vines of the Cabernet.
And so you've got Cabernet Franc behind me, and what else? Is that it in that block?
That's
In
it.
that block, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
And Elise was instrumental in the Cabernet Franc. She goes, let's grow Cabernet Franc. And I'm going, no, let's just keep it easy. Let's grow Sauvignon.
Actually, yeah, he wanted to do the whole vineyard Cabernet Sauvignon. And I was like, let's do a little Merlot. Let's, I had all these ideas. Let's do a little bit of white, I don't know. And no. And the only way that I got, him to get on board with Cabernet Franc was, the price per ton of Cabernet Sauvignon, the only grape varietal in Napa that's higher is Cabernet Franc.
That's right.
But I got him. It was
Really?
kind of a trick because nobody is buying Cabernet Franc. It does have a higher price, but nobody's buying it.
But
So,
it's a good blender. It's a good blender wine. So,
but we're
Right.
not blending it.
well, we may.
We're not blending it. I
We-
have it aging in a separate
So-
new French oak barrel. So we're going to be releasing probably 25 cases in maybe 2 years or so.
Yeah.
Hey, Ken, I know that tone. You're not blending it. Agree to disagree.
Okay. Okay.
So when this is, at least you told me that you've already bottled your first Cabernet vintage, or you're getting ready to bottle.
We will be bottling our 2021 Cabernet Sauvignon in the fall.
Okay. And then the normal aging time in bottle is extended. What are you doing about wanting to get something into the market sooner rather than later?
Yeah, so this wine's been barrel aging. It'll be barrel aged for 24 months before we go into bottle, and then we'll hang on to it for an additional 2 months just to get it through bottle shock. But we're really hoping to release it before the holiday season. Our first Cabernet, we can't really imagine anything better to have on our table for, Christmas, Thanksgiving, whatever. So we're going to work on it, but it's definitely going to be a wine that people can lay down for a couple years, but you can lay it down in your own cellar too, right? Just have it.
I'm real
And then-
excited about the Cabernet after growing Pinot for all these years. This is kind of a new thing for me. I mean, it's still farming and growing grapes and everything, but it's Cabernet. And so I've been educating my palate with Cabernets and developing the style and all that kind of stuff. But I've been listening to Elise and her friends, the younger set, what kind of profiles they like. And I'm listening and I like what I hear. So this is kind of a new ride for me and I'm on board. I mean, anything new is exciting and I want to be an exciting guy. So
I just want to also make a comment. Jeff said, don't pull back on your Pinot Noir. And that's a really good
Oh, yeah.
point. I want everyone to know that we are not, messing with our Pinot Noir production at all. Pinot Noir production will maintain as is.
yeah.
This Cabernet vineyard that used to be Pinot Noir, we used to sell all the fruit. So this vineyard was never part of our portfolio. It was always in an income stream for us. But
and a poor one at that.
yeah, but now we pulled it back. So now it's an income stream. Well, now it's just an expense stream, right?
Yeah.
Well, and for
But we're
those of
gonna
you that are
make great
just
wine, so yeah.
For those of you that are just joining, Jeff is former global head of HR for a multinational company. We'll have an in-service on that later. But I do want to talk about, because both Elise and Ken have referenced quite a few times on the extreme southern location of the vineyard. So it's come to that time of the program where we have to show you exactly where they're located. And that, of course, is Google Earth.
I love
And the
this part.
crowd goes wild.
Woo!
Oh, and the background that Mission Control has is lovely. That's me pounding a liter of sangria in Spain, because that's when you do when it's 100 degrees out. So here's where we play at Cellar Angels. We only focus on Napa and Sonoma. We only focus on limited production wines, the kind you're tasting this evening. And for us, it's all about Napa and Sonoma County. And it's interesting because that was fast. We talk about how special this land is, and it's a tapestry of geological excellence that is not replicated anywhere on the globe. You have half of the 12 soils that are classified are in Napa County alone. They've got 33 species of subsoils. I mean, it's amazing. It's a Mediterranean climate. But where Elkhorn Peak is, a Mediterranean climate is simply fascinating because there's only 3% of the globe that are classified as a Mediterranean climate. And not surprisingly, aptly named, they're around the Mediterranean. So this is rare to have it outside of the Mediterranean, but this is what Napa and Sonoma are classified as because they get rain at a certain point in time of year. Actually, this year might throw them out of that classification because apparently it's just been nonstop rain. But from an Elkhorn Peak perspective, they're way down here in the southern extreme side of the valley. And when we zoom in on that property, you get to see the ranch that they call home. Now, the Cabernet Vineyard is where, Elise, you have to guide me again.
Okay, so you're gonna go to the right.
My right or your right?
Oh
Go
yeah,
down.
Yeah, go down. You're gonna follow along Highway 12.
Okay.
Yeah, keep going down.
You're
down
really
there.
close.
Keep going, running that cursor down. There you
Right
are.
there. You
That's
see
it.
that
Yeah.
move your cursor to the right a little bit, or
Go over to the right. Go over to the right. To the
here.
right.
Can you see my cursor?
There you go.
Up across the highway.
That's it right
That's
there.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that long rectangle. So it might look a little far on Google Earth, but we take our little ranch vehicle. It's like a quarter mile.
I drive my tractors down to that
Yeah,
field.
it's really close.
Yeah.
Did you guys never play the game warmer, colder, warmer, cold? I mean,
Yes, I played that.
come on.
hot. You're
Go to
on
the
fire.
left, up, down. I have no idea. We're looking in a mirror. All right. So
That's
how large is this, Ken? How many acres is
10
this?
acres.
So that's 10 acres. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
So I bought
you have a
that
nice-
property back in '97, and we grew a Pinot on it for about 25 years. And then in 18, we pulled the Pinot out and planted it to Cabernet, half of it. In 19, we planted the other 5 acres to Cabernet. So we harvested our first crop last year, and our second, or the year before in 21, and we got our second crop last year. And it's really
And
come
now-
along good. I'm very, very excited about it.
Yeah, it's rich.
It's nice.
Like it is heavy.
It's nice. Yeah.
And why is it so rich and heavy? Because if you had Pinot there for a long, long time and you're essentially organic farmers, so the soil has been well maintained, but at least you've kicked it up a notch since you've planted the Cabernet, and soil integrity, soil health is really at the foremost of the program right now. So walk us through what that means to you and some of the practices you employ.
Okay. So I am really into organic farming, regenerative farming. If anybody doesn't know what regenerative farming is, it's sort of like a fully hands-off approach to land maintenance. It's no-till. It's, embracing the weeds and the natural flora that is present in the vineyard. It's a belief that, the ecosystems within the soil will take care of themselves and regenerate without the influence from farmers. So it's really like a holistic back to the landers approach. And I've been attending seminars, and the benefits of regenerative farming are just incredible. There's been some really beautiful case studies in other crops, specifically like peaches, a lot of produce, that are just showing that, all of the problems that farmers sort of spot treat are non-existent when you run a regenerative farming program. So we started 5 years ago by going non-certified organic. So no pesticides, no herbicides, no synthetics. And now we're just sort of taking steps and figuring out strategically how to move to a fully regenerative farm, which would be, like no-till. There's a big belief that, soil that's exposed to the sun, it kills the microbes in the soil. They get, essentially burnt. So you got to keep your soil covered. So that's all stuff that we're really focusing on now. And all of it contributes to soil health. And of course, plants grow very well in the healthiest soil. So we feel like our soils are pretty healthy because we have been farming non-certified organic for a long time. You can tell the soil is really healthy because we have a lot of weeds that really drive my dad crazy.
A lot of weeds.
And weeds only grow in really healthy soil, but yeah, we're just taking steps to be as responsible and as on top of it as we possibly can.
And for those of you that have never been to visit the ranch and stop by the house and say hello, I pulled back so you could see the proximity to Napa. Here's the Napa private airport where Jim B, Jeff, Jane, Sean, they fly into a lot, that Colorado contingent. I fly into San Francisco and take an Uber. Those are the high rollers, but you can see exactly how close they are. So it's very easy to get to make a visit. But I'm curious, we've been talking for several years now about climate change, and Ken, you've got 40 plus vintages of grape growing, and you've had an insane amount of rain this year. How is that impacting the vines? Talk to us a little bit about climate change, and do you have enough water yet?
Well, the short answer to that question is deal with it. Okay. And so farming is nothing but a series of challenges. End of the day, every year it's challenges, and you just have to deal with the challenges. So California's been in an extreme drought for 5 years, all the fires burning up the state, all that kind of stuff. And now we've got these storms coming in and all this rain dumping on and everything. And I say, let it be. It's nature's way of kind of evening things out. We've got a tremendous amount of rain this year. We're well over our average rainfall. It's going to present challenges this spring. More specifically, the vines are starting to push out now a little bit late than normal. We got to get in and start spraying sulfur on the vines to prevent mildew. We can't get the tractors in. The fields are too wet. What do? You deal with it. So I'm good with whatever Mother Nature deals. I don't have any choice. What am I going to do?
Right.
Say I don't like this, change the channel? No, we're just going to roll with it. And whatever happens, happens. But the last few years, there is no such thing as normal anymore. So when you start, farming, just, jump back, see what it deals and deal with it. That's all you can do. And I'll tell you the one thing I learned years ago, don't stress about it. You can't do anything about it. So why are you going to worry about it?
Right. You can't stress about the weather.
Hang on for the ride and enjoy yourself.
But I will tell you that average rainfall for our ranch in Napa is between 25 and 35 inches annually. And
the whole year.
The whole year. That's usually, what we write down. We track the rain. This year, we've gotten 32 inches, and we still have another 6 weeks of the rain season, and the 10-day forecast is calling for a bunch more rain. So we're definitely getting higher than average rainfall this year. But like my dad said, the last, 2-3 years, we've been really suffering. The vineyards specifically, we've had to, 2 years ago, we had to irrigate in winter for the first time in 40 years of growing grapes. We've never had to irrigate in the winter. So God, we're just, we're dealing with little issues. Like there's a lot of little landslides happening. The field is at what's called field capacity, which means it cannot absorb any more water. So we're seeing small slips everywhere, which we will patch in the spring, no biggie. But this is really welcome. This can't do anything but help us in the future. So we're all about it. We just, every time it rains, we're out there in a rain dance. Yeah, we're all about it.
This is good for not just the grape industry, but agriculture in California. And California produces 50% of the agriculture in the United States. This is what California needs. And of course, I'm not downplaying the problems and the people that are having, problems and all that. I'm sorry about that. But for the overall economy and the well-being of the whole thing in California, this is a welcome thing.
Right. We're seeing reservoirs filled that haven't been filled in almost, decades.
5 years, 10 years.
Yeah. So it's really a beautiful sight.
It's good.
I mean, we were dealing with, drought issues aside from grape growers. I was devastated to read that, our friends to the south who were growing citrus, they would just have to abandon their citrus because there was no water. California was putting, holds on water. You can only have a certain amount of gallonage and then your water's shut off for your crops. I mean, that's devastating for a farmer. Luckily, grapes are pretty resilient, right? If you don't water them, they just get more intense. But you can't do that with a lot of other produce. So
no,
I think everybody's just really grateful for all the rain, despite the short-term issues we're all having with the amount of rain and the severity of the rain this particular season.
Plus, look at the guys who sell umbrellas and raincoats. They're doing the rain dance.
There you go.
Exactly. Hey, Ken, question for you. You mentioned no-till. Well, how does that manifest? Does that mean no tractors? Does that mean no equipment? What does no-till mean?
Well, so since Elise came on and has been pounding on my head that we got to be more natural, all that kind of stuff, we never really, so when they talk about no-till, what they're talking about is no disking. Most of the growers in the valley floor, they run a disc through the vineyard every year and tear up all the weeds. And so you have when you drive down 29, you see a real clean vineyard and all that kind of stuff. Most of the hillside guys, they don't disc anyhow, because when you disc, you disturb the soil and you have potential for erosion. So we've always been on a no-till deal. We just mow the grass down and we just keep the grass cut low, but we don't disc. But this year we're kind of starting a new thing. After 30 years of farming, we're ripping the soil. We're running a big shank down the rows to fracture the soil to give the roots more area to develop in. And then we're putting compost in, and we're disking the compost in, and we're doing under row composting and stuff like that. So
well, I want to make a note because it seems sort of counterintuitive. We're headed in this regenerative farming direction to tell you that we're ripping the soil, but really what we're doing, so for the last 40 years we've in the vineyard rows, heavy machinery. I mean, our
so
tractors aren't that big, but
they compact the soil.
They compact the soil, and the soil that we're growing grapes in is a very marginal soil. It's a clay loam. It compacts easily. So as we're embarking on this new regenerative natural farming practice, we're trying to set our soil up for success, because compacted soil, it
stunts root growth.
Right. So we ripped the soil, we threw a bunch of compost, we're mixing the compost in, we're trying to revitalize the natural biology in the soil, feed the microbes and get them sort of awake and performing at optimal performance.
This is for an old grape grower like me, this is kind of a new ball game, and I'm very excited about it. And we're doing some pretty substantial changes to our farming practices, but we're seeing the results already. As an example, we ripped a lot of the rows this year, and then we seeded cover crop, and cover crop is a blend of vineyard grasses that add nutrients back in the soil. And the rows that we ripped, the cover crop is growing like twice as tall as the rows we didn't rip.
Wow.
We rip every other row so you don't disturb the roots, but I can see the results.
Did you, in true to fashion, did you shank by hand?
Right, Martin.
I think you just get, a work release program with some of the local penitentiaries. They'll be familiar with shanking.
I tried to get him to bring a horse in to pull the shank, but that's where he drew the line.
I'm not that old.
All right, I've
no,
got two final questions.
Yeah.
Ken, let's start with you. What would you tell a 30-year-old Ken that you know today?
Don't get in the grape business.
That's dark.
Run from the grape business. Run like the wind.
The problem, the answer to that problem is because of the escalating cost of, well, in at least in Napa Valley, no 30-year-old can afford to do it. It's off the charts for
That's
most
a good
people
point.
now. It's just not the real world anymore. I mean, I got into it 40 years ago when it was approachable, but nowadays it's a pretty tall order for most people to come up to the Napa Valley and buy land to grow grapes. It's just not real anymore. It's just ridiculous. But anyhow, if you can do it, however you can do it, I've been a pretty happy camper for the last 40 years. I mean, I do what I like to do and I enjoy myself. I'm not piling up the money, but that's not the most important thing in life, especially as you get older, but it's all good.
Now, Elise, you've got one chore before I ask you your essay question. So we're going to
Okay.
do flavors, aromas, and pairings of the 2018 Cabernet. I'm sorry, 2018 Pinot Noir.
Yeah.
About the Cabernet. So why don't you tell us what folks should be getting on the 2018 or what you get on the 2018 now that we're 5 years down the road? And then what is your go-to pairing for this wine?
Oh, okay, great. So our wine always ripe cherry right off the bat. That's what I get from an aromatic standpoint. Maybe a little bit of plum and raspberry as well, but it's really going to be that nice black cherry for me. A little bit of vanilla as well, and I think that is something that is a byproduct of the new oak that we use in the reserve Pinot Noir. So the difference Pinot Noir and our reserve Pinot Noir is the barrel program. Other than that, these two wines are identical. They're picked on the same day. They use the same yeast. They're fermented the same way. They just go into a different barrel program. So it's a really interesting study to try our reserve next to our traditional, same vintage, and just pick up on the difference. It's a great study in the influence of oak on a wine.
Super cool. I like that idea. And can't miss food pairing.
Yes, food pairing. So I'm a big cheese girl myself. So cheese that always really goes well with Pinot Noir is Gruyere, which is like a Swiss type of cheese. Brie. I would say Chèvre is also a really good cheese with this particular wine. I would challenge people to try our Pinot Noir with blue cheese. And I know that's like a really controversial statement, but our site specifically, we have something called the Fagan series soil. It's the only vineyard in Napa with this soil type. And it really brings like this earthy component to our wine that you don't pick up in other Pinot Noirs. And that earthy component just pairs so beautifully with the earthy component that you would kind of find in a blue cheese.
Well, one of the things I love about it is, for me personally, it doesn't have any of that candied sweetness that I see a lot of Pinot Noirs have. Some of the Carneros Pinot Noirs have that, but it has more of that earthy Burgundian oomph to it. I mean, it has some finesse and some depth to it versus that candied sweetness.
Right. I totally agree. And the fact that it doesn't have any of that candy flavor, that's just a byproduct of the soil that this fruit's grown in. There's nothing, that we're really doing different. I mean, they're growing the same clones that we're growing in Carneros, but it's our soil, man. It's hard for grapes to grow. The grape berries are small and they're intense, and the flavors are very distinct year over year. It's been a really consistent flavor profile in our Pinot Noirs.
Awesome. All right. Last question for Elise. If you could have a glass of your wine with one person, living or dead, what wine and who is it?
Oh my God. Wow. That's a interesting question.
We have an hour left, so take your time.
Let me get back to you.
I'm going to be super boring with this answer. And so we have had the same winemaker named Kent Rasmussen since 1987. I think you guys posted something on social media about how we first met Kent. But he's a prolific winemaker in the Valley, and he's really been a mentor to me personally. He's now living his best life, retired. He's traveling all over the world. I think he was at Burning Man last year. Like, the guy's just doing big things. So I don't get to see him much. I always text him, call him with a billion wine questions, but I would love the opportunity to sit down with him, drink a bottle of wine, and just sort of get his hot take. Any bottle of wine. I mean, honestly, I love drinking new bottles of wine from different areas of the world, from different areas of California, just to expand my palate.
And let me add on to that, Martin. And that was a very good question to ask Elise. And I think her answer was spot on. Kent Rasmussen is one cool dude.
He's pretty cool.
I've known this guy for 40 years. And I'm telling you, low key wine guy. He's just a stand-up guy. I couldn't talk enough good about the guy. He's a very good personal friend of mine. We've had a friendship for a very long period of time, but he's a good dude, bottom line.
He bought me my first book on winemaking.
Yeah.
He said, read this and let's chat. And we did. But here's a funny story about Kent. So he's really taken me under his wing. He taught me, what to look for in Pinot Noirs. He's really just been just an asset in helping me, make the Elkhorn Peak Pinot Noirs. But when I first started doing my sparkling wine program as my pet nat, I told him what I was doing, and he had a look of horror in his eyes. And he was just like, how are you calculating pressure in bottle? And I told him that I was, using sugar levels and instinct and rounding. And he was like, destroy those bottles. You could be creating tiny bombs. And I was like, oh my God. And I really considered it for a second. And I was just like, nah, I can't do that. And, the rest is history, because now I'm about to release my 4th year of Pet Nat, my 6th Pet Nat vintage ever. And I don't know, I'm getting pretty good at it.
Yeah.
I like it. The Pet Nat is amazing. And I don't know if you've met Kim Vance. You may have. Kim and David are on tonight, but Pinot Noir maker who echoes your sentiments about Kent. So she has said he is amazing. And it sounds like someone we're going to have to meet someday. So I don't know if it's going to be at Burning Man or not, but
he's done with Burning Man. He's done with it.
Well, Elise and Ken, I can't thank you enough. It's been an absolute honor and delight to spend some time with you and learn about the new Cabernet Vineyard. We are looking forward to that first release and excited for the future. And I'm glad you finally have a grape salesperson, Ken, to help with the production. And I don't think you should ever make anybody plant 12,000 vines again by hand.
It was certainly one of the most memorable projects of my whole life. And hey, you guys, Cellar Angels in general, we love you guys. And when we release our first Cabernet Sauvignon, you guys are going to get an allocation. So we'll be back to taste our first Cabernet Sauvignon with you guys, and we're really looking forward to it.
Us too. Sipsters, you guys rocked again tonight. So we don't deserve it, but thank you so much for all your kindness, your loyalty, and obviously your purchases, because it's what makes this whole world a heck of a lot better. Next week, we have someone that Elise knows. Rebecca Chandry is going to be on, who also was quite a force with regards to the Save the Family Farms, and just up the road a little bit in Coombsville. And then it's we have to take a little bit of a hiatus because we have to do a little bit of research on potentially a Cellar Angels river cruise in Europe. So I don't want to get too specific, but we're going to be doing some background research. And next week's topic is the water crisis. So Ken, thanks so much for talking and solving that problem. We're just going to say there's no water crisis. Let's just drink Cabernet.
Oh, good, man.
You guys are awesome. It's so good to see you. I can't wait to see you again this summer in person. Thank you so much for all you do. Sipsters, thank you so much for all you do. Everyone have a wonderful evening. Thank you for the birthday celebration. Crazy kind. Be good to one another. Cheers, everyone.
Thank you, Martin.
So good to see you guys.
Thank you so much. And thank everybody for joining.
Yeah, great to see all the familiar faces, guys. Have a great weekend.
Likewise, you too.